good vibrations.
Well, in the absence of any other party stepping in to save the day, we are continuing to stay focused on solutions and roadmaps out of our current shared situation. Rather than merely documenting the doom and gloom, there's enough other YouTubers out there talking about the mess that we find ourselves all in without me having to add my voice to it. But a theme that has come across my radar very much over the past few challenging months is that of the restoration of common law as the ultimate expression of we the people taking back our true power. And my guest today is one of the foremost figures on that front from the A Warrior Calls website. It's welcome to Christopher James. Welcome on, Chris.
Pleasure to have you here today, Mark. Thank you for having me on.
No worries. So we find you in Canada, right?
Yep. I'm in the wonderful snow-covered Canada right now. I'm just outside of Toronto in Burlington, Ontario.
So how extreme is the tyranny there currently?
Well, it's being ramped up, as you can see everywhere. What they've used is the template, I think, first when they were starting to do lockdowns in Italy last year and, forcing people to take residents into their homes, etc. That's now expanded to Australia. Australia is really bad, and then the lockdowns are ever increasing here in Canada and around the world. And this is happening, as I imagine we're going to get into here today, is because this theater, this fraud that has been placed upon the consciousness of mankind that got rolled out last year, that's been in the works for a very long time, is not coming to fruition as far as a mortality rate in the hospitals with these COVID-19 numbers. So the world is finally realizing now, doctors are coming together, that we've all been lied to. And that's ultimately what the hope for this world is right now, is that this truth is finally coming forward.
Sure. It's starting to happen, but it's just happening way too slowly for my liking, and it just beggars belief for me that they've been able to drag it out this long without far more people coming forward. Lawyers, doctors, politicians, there's a few voices out there, but it still needs much more momentum. And I wonder if they themselves thought that they'd be able to keep the scamdemic going this long without being called out on it, because it's coming up on a year now, and it's just incredible that the lies have persisted for so long, facilitated, of course, by the fear-based mind control and propaganda of the mainstream media. But whatever the case, it's an incredible feat that they've managed to pull off from their point of view.
Yes, absolutely. And, in all my talks for people that don't know about me, as Mark so eloquently spoke to earlier, you can find me on awarriorcalls.com. That's my main website. But you can also find me on BitChute. I'm on Brighteon and also Rumble. And I also do live streams, which hopefully Mark can put the stream out for this on his website or YouTube channel. But it's at event.webinarjam.com/channel/A-Warrior-Calls. And I do live streams every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday nights, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, which I realize is the wee hours in the morning for my brothers and sisters in the UK there. But you will usually be able to you will always find that it gets uploaded to my BitChute channel the next day or within 48 hours. Again, you were talking about the media suppressing thing. BitChute itself, I've caught them manipulating my view counts. And sometimes I have to do 3 or 4 times to get the videos loaded up. It just will not take it sometimes, I guess, based on the content that I'm bringing forth. But ultimately, Mark, I guess I would just like to start off by saying to everybody here is that first and foremost, we've been lied to in this world, all of us. And I'm not just talking about, what's going on with the COVID-19. Right from the very first breath that we've taken, okay, when we were lying moments only old in a hospital bed or crib, okay, there's a horrific trespass that has occurred against every one of us. And it is that foundational trespass that leads to your understanding of what is common law and moving forward in this world and bringing this solution forward. And as a result of this horrific trespass that's occurred against us, what happens in the simplest terms is that there is a corporation, a legal person, that is created in our names when we're born. And you have to understand something, Mark, is that when you and I are born, we came into this world as a man, right? Or our fellow women or whatever. You're either a man or a woman. And this nefarious entity, I guess you could say, that's been around this world for a very long time. This is not conspiracy theories. This goes back. I have a download, for example, on my website under the downloads tab. It's called the baby slave trade. And this is put together by a past common law judge, Anna von Reitz, out of the United States, with her team of people that have been drilling down on the history of what's actually been going on, not only in the United States, but worldwide. And what you find out that's happened in every single country is when this legal person is created, a corporation in your name, which you don't realize, and where that is represented is in a document called the birth certificate. Okay, we didn't create that, Mark, you or I. That was done behind our backs, so to speak. We're only moments old lying in a crib. We can't consciously understand a contract or consent to anything. And our parents are simply believing, because they've not been fully informed what's going on in the hospital, and neither do the nurses and doctors know this. But when they're filling out these forms, registering, your name, which is something we never do. We never register anything. You always put it on the record. But when it gets registered, what happens is that a few weeks later, your mother and father receive a birth certificate in the mail or some form of identification that's supposed to represent, or you believe it represents, your child that you just brought into this world. And that's where the rubber hits the road right from the very first breath that we take, because this trespass, Mark, has happened against every single man and woman in this world. And why it is so huge? Well, quite simply this. Legal. So you're not born as a legal person. You come into this world as a man or woman with all your unalienable rights from our Creator, God. That's what our Commonwealth countries were founded on. That's what all these wars that we've had, the First and Second World Wars, this is what they were ultimately about. It was about ensuring that we never lost our freedoms. And so many millions of people gave their lives for these freedoms that we're seeing all around us here today being taken away. And my fellow man and woman, Mark, they do not understand the power that we all hold. They do not understand that we are the creators in this world and that all governments were created to protect the property of man. Remember, the hierarchy goes God created man and woman, and then man and woman went and created, we the people, government. And government's sole role, as I said, was to protect the property of man. And then government went and created what? Well, they went and created judges, police officers, all these other corporate entities that are supposed to be providing good faith services to us. So when we talk about the common law, it's very simple. The first thing you need to understand is that legal does not apply to a man or woman, only lawful. We say, well, Christopher, what does legal apply to? Well, legal applies to that which is incorporated, full stop. And you say, that which is incorporated? Well, wait a minute. We have these lawyers that we hire and we take into these public courthouses and they represent us. No, this is what's actually going on. Not conspiracy theory. For example, if we were doing video, you can see it on my 4 foundational knowledge videos. That's what I would ask everybody to watch first. They're short on my website once you go inside. And then after that, jump to my live streams that began on August the 6th. And if you can, there was 1 or 2 a week, and now I'm doing 3 a week. But if you can fast track through those, by the time you get to the here and now, you're going to be in a current situation seeing real time common law courts taking on this repugnant parasite society called the bar. Okay, because I was just alluding to a minute ago, people are saying, well, wait a minute, Christopher, we hire these lawyers to represent us, to work with us because we can't understand all these laws and stuff. Well, this is what's actually going on. When you're born, as I said, you're born as a man or a woman, you're one of the people, full stop. What they do, these service corporations that were all created, for example, England, Canada, the United States, all these are service corporations. They were created by the Pope, the monarch, and the central bankers. This is not conspiracy theory. This has all been proven now. This is what the world is realizing. All these so-called governments that we believe are organic governments by and for the people, a de jure government, that means lawful. Oh no, we all have de facto governments. And what's that? Unlawful, because they operate in the legal world. They're simply service corporations. Take the service corporation England out of the way and put McDonald's. Right? And then everyone would start to understand from Boris Johnson down what jurisdiction, that means control, does Boris Johnson have over any other man or woman? None. He has to come forward, and I teach people this very, very powerfully. It's very simple questions. For example, legal only applies to that which is incorporated. Lawful, as we talked about, only applies to a man or a woman or people. And when you understand what the word law actually stands for, this is what the people have never been taught. This conversation that you and I are having right here, Mark, and I appreciate you for letting me kind of going on here because it's important that everybody hears this, is that we've never had this conversation. Okay, it should have happened with our mother and father when we were growing up because they had it with their mother, father, and the generations before. So that's the beauty of the technology today, is that we're finally having a communication that's being brought forward into the light that is so powerful that it is rocking this world right now. And this evil that set up this entire system, because it's the central bankers, the Pope and the monarch, that set up this birth certificate, that created a citizenship when we were born, that created that corporation in your name. Why? Because that's how they had to fool everyone to have jurisdiction over them in these legal courts. See, when something is registered, as I said to you earlier with the birth certificate, it gets dragged out into a different jurisdiction, the C. So first we should talk about a very powerful yet simple word, law. What does the word law stand for? Well, it's not a pretty word, and it's also a very powerful word, but each letter actually represents the jurisdictions of law that we were given from our Creator. L stands for land, which is common law. That is the law that resides between my fellow man and I, with Mark and everyone else that's out there. You do not have to be a lawyer to understand it. It's not known as natural law. It's common law. It's the unwritten law, and it simply means this. If a man or woman trespasses against Mark or Christopher, then Mark or Christopher simply moves a claim, not a complaint. Complaints in a legal world. You move a claim into a public courthouse against that man or woman for trespassing against you, and you seek the immediate restoration of your property. On my website, you learn the power of those three words: property, trespass, and then the other one is who. That's what you really wield, so to speak, the truth of sword when you're dealing with all this corruption that's around you here today, as I'm helping people with businesses stop all of these draconian measures. So the first word stands for land. The second word stands for air, and that's what we were actually born on, was the land. Remember that. That's why it's the common law. It's the law of we the people, of man or woman. Okay, so A stands for air, ecclesial law, canon law, okay, which doesn't apply to we the people, but everybody can simply understand without getting a legal degree. It's not a law degree. They can simply understand that the land jurisdiction is separate from the air jurisdiction. There's obviously different laws that apply to each of them up there, okay? And then the last letter is W in law. And what does that stand for? Water. Law of the sea. Admiralty Maritime Law. You go ask any lawyer, were they trained in maritime admiralty law? They're going to say absolutely. That's all they've been trained in, okay? See, the lawyers have been lied to as well. What people need to recognize, when I said we've all been lied to, our biggest enemy that we have right now in this world, right now, aside from this lie of COVID-19 that's basically grabbing the consciousness of mankind and completely terrorizing it, is that it is our ignorance. Okay, we are all ignorant of these truths, not because we're stupid, not because we're lazy. It's because these people that set these systems up that we were born into, we've entrusted that these have all been legitimized. Because why? Well, you're getting it reinforced every night in that idiot box called the television, or it's being even now on the internet. Everything is constantly being reinforced to us of this so-called justice system, the structure that we have out there. So what's happening at our public courthouses is that a lawyer does not represent you. He represents you. And everyone's going, what? I know everyone's already having a tough time understanding that the legal world doesn't apply to a man or woman, and it doesn't. So this is what the lawyers are about. A turn. To turn someone is to turn someone into something else, to present them as something else. So they're not representing you, Mark, in a court. They are representing you. And then everyone's saying, well, what are they representing you as? Well, they have to get you into the jurisdiction that the Pope and the monarchs and the queens all set up, which is Admiralty Maritime Law. So that's the law of the sea. So how do they do that? Well, they represent you as that corporation, that legal person that was created when you're born. See, that's why they want you to take out a citizenship, okay? Because the ship represents you on this vessel on the water. And you're going to hear from a 20-year World Bank lawyer, Karen Hudas, who basically, she came face-to-face with this many years ago, and she thought it was all nonsense, just like I did when I was, delving through my 20 years of working with all levels of law enforcement, fighting in the trenches in these courthouses, not on mainly for other people I was helping. It was nothing to do with me, the odd traffic court or whatever was taking on. But at the end of the day, what is happening is that lawyer, when he walks you into that courtroom, he represents you as that fiction that's created, that piece of plastic. Go and pull up any legal filing that you can find online. And all you have to do is look at the very top at who are the people, the parties that are involved. And you're always going to see, even if you see your name, that's what I mean. Go grab your birth certificate and look at it. You're going to see your name as all capital letters, right? Do we write our names as all capital letters? No, we don't do that. So why was that done? Why was that created? Well, this is what the Pope and the monarch and the central bankers needed to set up in our public courthouses in order to steal the wealth from the people, to keep this massive truth. Like, this is massive constructive fraud when you understand it. For example, imagine if when we were born, McDonald's was the service corporation that was working in our hospitals. It was overseeing all the documentation that they trained all their agents and officers to do. And then you find out, a couple of weeks later, or 3 weeks later, you get a document in the mail from McDonald's saying, here's a birth certificate with McDonald's logo on it. No different than the logo you get from, the local provincial government in Canada that you're here in, or in England. There will be some sort of emblem that represents the government, because he who creates owns and controls. Remember, that's a piece of plastic. You didn't create it. You knew nothing about it when you were being born, what was being done with this information that your mother, father were giving, and neither were they fully disclosed of how that information was going to be used. So what happened is they go and create a legal person, because a legal person's jurisdiction is no different than a corporation. Its jurisdiction is the sea. And now you understand when you walk into a courtroom, the lawyer is representing you as that fiction that was created, that piece of plastic. And that's why you have no rights when you go into their courts. That's why they call you an accused, an offender, the defendant, a complainant, a respondent. They call you every other name under the book, a resident, a citizen, except a man or woman. You ask any lawyer, show me in your law books, your precious little law books, where the word man or woman appears. It doesn't. And remember, the law, the bar, is a private society, so they can call whatever they want the law. I can start my own private society, and I can say we're the common law group or whatever, right? Well, at the end of the day, when you walk into that public courthouse, Mark, they are turning you over, and they're turning you into this legal fiction. They're putting a persona over you that you are a person and that you are somehow bound by these codes, rules, and statutes. Now you understand who wrote there's that word again, who, of one of my top 3 words, who wrote these codes, rules, statutes, bylaws, right? People, your fellow man and woman. Well, are they going to come forward that are working, mind you, for what? A service corporation. So if, say you had McDonald's operating as a service corporation, and then they put out these dictates that you couldn't do these bylaws, you've got to stay at home, you've got to put these masks on, everybody would laugh their head off, right? And obviously McDonald's sales would go down the toilet. Well, that's actually what's happening right now with these service corporations masquerading as our governments. Not a damn thing, and pardon my language, Mark, that comes out of their mouths or pen that's put to paper applies to we the people. Why? Because I'm going to give you the very foremost powerful sentences you need to all understand right now. Whenever you're dealing with anybody that you're interacting with right now, or if the police actually get involved, there's a 4th point. So it's always these 3 points and then the 4th. The first one is, who claim I property? Okay, that's what you ask to these people when they appear in front of you, whether they're a police officer, a judge, a lawyer, whoever you're dealing with and interacting with says, who claim my property here? No one's going to claim your property. Thank you. And then the second question you hit them with is, who can administrate property without right? Well, we all know that I can't go and administrate Mark's property without right. And Mark, flesh and blood, the man that I know, who I've just met today, I know that, I'm not his property and he's not my property. So we can't administrate another man or woman's property without right. And that's just not your homes, your cars. It covers everything. Property is anything that is exclusive to you. And everybody simply understands that. You don't need a law degree for that. Yeah, Chris, that's simple to understand. Now here comes another big one. Produce the obligation upon which you rely to have jurisdiction over I. Now, what does that mean, obligation? That means contract. What does jurisdiction mean? It means control. The power of the words. You must learn what they mean. So when I'm saying produce the obligation, I'm saying whenever you're interacting with these people, police, if they're trying to give you a ticket or something, say, excuse me, Bob or Susie, produce the obligation. That means contract upon which you rely to have jurisdiction over I. That means for him to have control over you. Remember, he's acting, when you see these people wearing these police outfits, look at them as no different as the staff behind the counter at McDonald's, except, of course, they act a little bit more aggressively than the McDonald's staff does to us these days, but they are no different in law than these people that work for McDonald's or Burger King, etc. Why? Because they're simply people operating, carrying out duties and obligations for a service corporation. Here's where it really hits home. A service corporation, duties and obligations that you're working for, be it McDonald's, the police department, a council, government, whatever you're doing, they do not trump the rights of a man or a woman. Remember that. I'll say that again. Duties and obligations, when you act in any capacity other than a man or a woman, you have no rights because you're following your duties and obligations within your job description. Of course, if someone goes and hits you and does things, well, then you can quickly change that hat and you do have the rights because you're in the capacity of a man or woman. But that's how simple all of this is. And when you all understand what these lawyers have been doing for a very long time is they've been stealing from the wealth of these people, and they've been set up this way to keep us locked down. It's the same with taxation. Okay, go and pull up any communication you've been given surrounding taxation you've been paying all this time. Now you need to start to understand who you are actually paying taxation for. You're paying taxation on a corporation that was created by the service corporation that they claim is their property. And they've tricked you into believing that you are this corporation, this all caps name. See, he who creates owns control, as I said. So if I went and created a bunch of corporations, for example, we have a large chain like McDonald's. You have the head chain, which would be like the provincial or federal government, right? And then they go and create all these franchises, all in different names, but they're all under their same rules and regulations. They just happen to create them in our names. So this is what's actually going on here, because those service corporations that they create, the legal person, the entity when we're born, that is bound to these codes, rules, and statutes that these service corporations that are masquerading as our government are creating. And it's that simple when you understand it. And the final question, if the police are involved, you simply look at that man and you say, excuse me, Bob, Produce the verified claim of trespass that you have, that I caused wrong or harm against a man or woman. Okay? And what that simply means is that, you see, the only way a man or woman that's acting in these police roles, these service corporations, remember, they're policy. That's where the word police comes from. They're supposed to be peace officers, but they've also been lied to as well. These people, these honorable people that put their lives on the line every single day, and let me say first and foremost, this is why I've done all the work that I've done drilling down for the last 20 years to get this truth to these people, because we need these people more than ever right now to not only stop what they're doing, but understand who these people are in our world that are evil, that are causing all this wrong and harm and criminality, and we know who they are. It all goes back, this COVID-19 goes back to the same people that committed this trespass against us. They're the same people behind this colossal psyops on the consciousness of man that's going on worldwide. And this is why it's so powerful right now, because that third question, when you say to that man or woman standing in front of you acting as a police officer, produce the verified claim I trespassed against a man or woman, right? That means a verified claim, not a complaint, means that police officer is coming to you because a man or woman has come forward and they've bared witness that either you've caused damage to property or you've trespassed against them, again, administrating their property without right, whether you hit them, whether it was fraud, whatever. It covers everything simply all under that one sentence. So if a man or woman is not going to claim that we are property, and this is when you're standing in a public courthouse, remember, this is another powerful word. It's a public courthouse you're walking into, not a private courthouse. When you get into that courthouse, the lawyers attorney you, they represent you as that legal fiction, and then their whole legal world takes off, right? That's why you understand when the legal world doesn't apply to you, it always boils down to who's the man or woman moving this court against me that I've trespassed against, or breached a contract with, or has a bill of particulars of damages that I've done, right? And if they do not appear, and there's no verified claim, verified means that a man or woman's going to come into court, Mark, and they're going to speak on the record, okay? They're going to viva voce, they're going to appear in court and speak. And when you understand the power of that, when there's no man or woman that with a verified claim before you, and it's actually people, remember, what is a attorney general? You hear all these big names that they give all these people that are supposed to be high up in these service corporations called government. That man or woman is nothing more than the top lawyer for that service corporation, like McDonald's or Burger King. Do we give a rat's arse what a top lawyer, a man acting as from the legal department for these large corporations says or does? No. Does anything he put pen to paper apply to I or we the people in this world? No. Okay, it only applies to us when contract makes the law. And that's why that third point that I always refer to, of the four that we've talked about, produce the obligation upon which you rely for jurisdiction over I. So you're basically saying to that man or woman, I'm honorable here. You seem to believe that I'm under the jurisdiction of this paperwork that you're putting before me. Remember, words on a piece of paper, Mark, do not control a man or woman. They're just words on a piece of paper. It doesn't matter if your name's written in all capital letters. Well, in their world it does, in the legal world. But in the world, in the realm of man, of common law, contract makes the law. So it doesn't matter what piece of paper is being put in front of you, whether it's a traffic ticket, whether it's a letter from an attorney general, or a letter from your counselor, a letter from your neighbor, it doesn't matter. It's simply a communication to you. And unless you've consented that there's that obligation, a contract with that man or woman privately, or you have a contract with the service corporation that they represent, where you've relinquished your rights and that you've agreed to fall under any rules or dictates, bylaws that them or council people make, no one would ever do that. And this is the trick. This is the rub that's been going on, and this has been going on for over 200 years now in this country. The baby slave trade, this whole thing of understanding how they capture the consciousness of man, has been going on for over 1,000 years. Okay, this is very, very deep stuff, but it's also very simple now. And if it wasn't for the internet, Mark, you and I would not be able to talk right now. This truth would not be being spread around the world. I'm also I'm also using my information and my verified work. It's also being posted under earthunited.global. Jesse Casanova there has taken my work, God bless him, and he's helped bringing that through an incredible application that he's launched right now with the world to bring these truths forward. And in the event that they shut the internet down, we're all going to have still connectivity through the cellular network. So I really say to everyone, go to my website, awarriorcalls.com, subscribe on the landing page there. There's a short video that you can watch, but when you scroll down, there's a subscription and an enter button. The reason you subscribe is that I had my YouTube channel taken down on November the 12th, and I had about 20,000. It was really starting to pop subscribers, and I just started really pushing this stuff back in June. And what happened was that after that, it made me reorganize and get myself properly protected and set up on BitChute and multiple other programs. And then this live stream that I do every Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday is on a private system. webinar jam, and it's absolutely phenomenal. So if you are able to stay up and watch it, these are all real-time actions that you're hearing with real people and what we're moving now in the courts here up in Canada. Because what has happened through this long journey, and there's so much that I could share with people, is I need to explain something very simply and very powerful, what has just happened in Canada, which is going to affect every single man and woman in the common law wealth countries and also around the world. Is I've exposed, Mark, and I've proven now that the rules of civil procedure, okay, what are they? Those are what the bar members use. Remember the private society we don't belong to? That is what is being used in all our public courthouses against us, preventing us and blocking us from moving our own claims and courts. See, a man or a woman never, ever, ever, ever uses a lawyer, first and foremost. And secondly, you never, ever, 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 ever use their forms at the public courthouse. You prepare your own paperwork, as I do, and I teach people. I've got it all up on my website there. There's 3 claims there now, soon to be a 4th, that are very high profile and powerful. And what they have ultimately done, again, going back to it, is in my one case I just filed in September 12th of 2020, of just this past year, it exposes now the bar that the rules of civil procedure do not apply to we the people. And that is huge, because that's what these judges are all using against us. You look at all their rulings, all their filings, all their processes are all going under the rules of civil procedure. So here comes this word again, people. Who? Remember what I told you about pieces of paper with words on it? Writing? What's the first thing you have to ask? Who? Who wrote that? So ask who wrote that. And we have. We've actually put it to them several times over the last 6 months, to these people that are the top levels of the bar, the Attorney General in Ontario here and also in Canada. Because why? Well, it turns out that through their annual reports that they put out, the Service Corporation, the bar, and the Legal Society, they're all proud of these court systems that they're supposed to be running for we the people, providing good faith duties and services. Well, they actually put in there, they slipped up in 2008, they explained who writes the rules of civil procedure. And guess who writes it? Well, it's that man again that's working for that service corporation that calls himself an attorney general. And there might be other couple of flunkies that wear these black robes. And that's what they are, okay, people? These people that wear the black robes, they're not honorable. They're corrupt to the core. They're there to ensure that none of we, the sheep, find out and understand that this massive fraud that's been going on against us, because soon as we do, the gig is up for them. And they are liable beyond words. And that's why it is my hope in this very near future here, in this year, we are going to see, on top of this lie being routed out surrounding COVID-19 and our public courthouses actually being restored. This is of biblical proportions, that the bar is going to be liquidated into oblivion, that they're never going to trespass again or have the actions that are occurring against every baby when it's born in that hospital. How horrific is that when you stop and think about it, that your consciousness has been corrupted your entire life because of this unlawful trespass that occurs when we're first born. And the reason it's called an unlawful trespass is because they're doing something unlawful to you. They're doing something legal. Remember, legal is a completely different jurisdiction. They're creating a legal person. They're stealing your property, which is your given name that came to you from your mother and father. And they're going and creating a corporation in your name, and then they're fooling you the rest of your life that that is you. And all the documentation and communication, when you go and buy a house, a car, a boat, right? Look at the identification you've used. Look what is on title. This is why the people own nothing. This is why they are able to come in through the legal world, steal our properties, tap into our bank accounts is another one. Look at your bank account. You're going to see your name is in all capital letter. On my website, I have a family that I went to protect with their family farm, the Maneri case, and it's a wonderful, wonderful video to watch, but also do the download of the one document I've got there where I had them go to their local bank. They had 3 bank accounts, always in good standing, farmers for over 35 years, incredible people. So I had them go there to correct the record because they now knew that their name was supposed to be spelt in upper and lower case, not all capital letters. That doesn't represent them. That's a corporation. That's why you don't own your bank accounts. That's why they can come in and take money. So they went back to the bank, Mark, and they went to change that name from all uppercase to upper and lowercase. The bank manager, I said, these people at the lower levels are unaware of this corruption. She says, no problem. She had their ID that I show people how to create the correct ID. Okay, none of this re-registering stuff, which I know is going on in England there with the common law group or whatever there. Don't get into that nonsense, okay, because you don't need to register anything. When you register something, you're turning over control to somebody else. Just remember that. You never register something, you put it on the record. Okay, so what ultimately is happening here in our country, in our world right now, is we're having this truth that's coming out, which is so powerful surrounding the common law. And when my fellow man and woman understand those 4 questions, when you ask them, who claim my property, who can administrate property without right, produce the obligation upon which you rely to jurisdiction over I, or produce the verified claim that I trespass causing wrong or harm against a man or woman. And unless the answer is yes, Mark, to those 4 questions, then there is no court. That man or woman, no matter what their role is, whether it's Boris Johnson standing in front of you, Donald Trump in the past, or if it was Justin Trudeau up here in Canada, these people are operating service corporations, right? Nothing that they put pen to paper, and this is what people are realizing now. What's happening is that we've been blocked at the public courthouses, and I've exposed now that the rules of civil procedure, it went right up to the Chief Justice of Canada and the Chief Justice of Ontario, the provincial territory where I live, and also the two Governor Generals. And they were put to the task, again, after me dealing with, because the prior claim that we put in on September 12th went after 10 people. Who were these 10 people? Which you never hear about this sort of stuff happening. Well, these 10 people, that's what you refer to them as, the man or the woman. They were 8 lawyers, people that act as lawyers, bar members, parasites, and the other 2 were parasites that wear black robes, right? So that got filed on September 12th, 2020. And then when they didn't answer the question, they were blocking us at the courthouse, the court clerk, the registrar, and this one woman named Kendra Coates, who we ended up moving claim with. She was added to this claim that got filed on December the 24th because we had written communications, again, right up the full chain within these service corporations to what? Produce the verified contract, which they obviously have. They require an obligation in order for these rules of civil procedure to apply to us. Remember, contract makes the law between a man or a woman. And if that's a public courthouse, then nobody has the right to deny you access to it. And again, you go back to those 4 questions. Who's the man or woman in this public courthouse acting in a public servant role that claims thy property? Nobody. Who can administrate property without right? Nobody in there. Remember, what is your claim? What is your filing? That's your property. That's why you need to understand and master the power of a few words simply. And when you understand this, we are going to rout all this evil out with corruption. And it all begins at this public courthouse. And of course, the third question is that anybody that's going to try and administrate our property without right, wearing the black robes there, they better damn well have that obligation contract that we've signed with them, right? Or they have to claim that we're property, or they can administrate property without right. Right, the whole trespass verification that we're looking for before, when you're dealing with a police officer, that's separate. That's the only time you bring up that, produce the verified trespass. But for everything else, it's those first 3 questions. And that's why this is so powerful. And I'm so grateful, Mark, for you bringing me on here today to be able to share this truth. I've been talking for a while. I'll let you get back in here in a sec. But it's this simple, people. This is what's been done to us when we were born. A legal person, a corporation was created in our name, and you've been led to believe quite simply that all your life that legal applies to a man or woman. It doesn't. That's the first concrete fact. And that's why we don't protest, okay, or petition these people that are acting as public servants. We gather around our public courthouses and we move claims under common law powerfully into that public courthouse, which needs to be done in England right now and around the world. Unfortunately, in England, they're caught up in the Magna Carta. And as I said to you, and as I said to everybody, this is truth. The Magna Carta is a wonderful document. It's an incredible document of something that happened back in history surrounding people that I'm not property of. And my name doesn't appear on that Magna Carta, and neither does any of the people of England. Remember, contract makes the law. But that represented a time and place when the people recognized the authority, this ridiculous power that the king and the queen were looking to usurp on the people through taxation and basically make you a serf. You're a slave, and they've never turned away from that. And this is how they've re-brought that back out through this under this color of law, which occurs with this trespass that happens in our hospitals. And you need to understand this is the simplicity of it right now. They're terrified that the people are learning this truth that's going out because the same people, again, you look at this red CUSIP number and it's run by the central banks, right? It's all on my website, all verified information. And this is a big shock to people when they hear this. This is the best part of it, though. One of the best parts. Every dollar that you've ever paid in taxation was based on fraud. And all that money is going to come back to all of us. When you understand that these central bankers have been hoarding the monarchs and the Pope, they've been collecting all of this money, as Karen Hudas talks about, through taxation in the United States. 60% of it gets sent to Rome that they keep, and then another 40% comes back out and then gets to Canada, and then it gets transferred back to the Queen, the monarch in England. Okay, that's where our taxation money is actually going. This is this big scam that's being created in the background because, see, every time a corporation was created in our name, that service corporation, say it was McDonald's, they would use that as if they were going for a loan to the central banks to say this is how we're going to be able to pay and support this debt, right? This loan that we're always borrowing from these central banks. The whole banking industry is a whole other issue. In Canada here, we had ours usurped in 1974. It was a public bank. It lent money interest-free, lent money interest-free to the people at the provincial, municipal, and federal level, whatever we needed, okay, for our roads, our infrastructures, our hospitals, our schools, our highways, everything. It was incredible. That's why our debt stayed from 1937 to 1974 at $18 billion. It never rose. Why? Because there was no interest attached to it, and any money that was being collected through taxation, it was spent back into perpetuity. I always have problems with that word, into the system, and that's why Canada became so strong. They realized after the Second World War and the Vietnam War, especially the United States, the central bankers were scared. They're going, uh-oh, Canada's got really strong here. They're not in the massive debt that we've now taken over the United States in 1913 with the Federal Reserve, which again is a private corporation, right? People think the Federal Reserve, because they put that tricky word out there, means that, oh, that's part of this government that's buying for the people. Nope. Take the Federal Reserve out of there and put Burger King, Mark, and that's what people need to understand. So unless you have a contract with Burger King, the IRS, or whatever your taxation system is there in England, they've all been collecting this money, stealing the wealth from the people, and they set this system up. This is how they've kept their control. This is how they've kept their power, right? They own the mind of man right from consciousness. But once you free yourself with this truth and you're seeing it being represented, every time you see the word person now, you're not going to recognize, you're going to realize that's a trick word, person. So you never accept the word person. It's written even in the Bible, Job 32:21. And it simply says, let no man place persons upon you. And this is what's been going on for a very long time. As I said, the legal world, they have to cloak you in this person entity. You have to accept that you are this person in their courts. And once they've got you, that judge has got 30 seconds to get control over you, then they just run with it, right? They don't listen to you, they ignore you. And that's why you never enter their courts unless you filed a claim ahead of time. And I'm going to let you come in here, but one thing I want everyone to also know, look up Carl Lentz, Karllentz. Carl Lentz, and type in Brian Garish with UK Column. Carl came out there a couple of years ago to the UK, and he did an incredible thing. He basically destroyed the courts that were there. They were going after a man by the name of Ballyman. He had multiple charges against him, which Bally didn't tell Carl until they were actually standing in court. Carl only thought that he had 1 or 2 charges. But just to show you the power of what I'm speaking to, the words, he put 2 sentences into that court. They established a court for a man. The Crown didn't realize that. The judge did. And they were in there for 4 hours that day. But when they came out of it, all the charges were thrown out because the Crown courts have never beat there were 2 courts actually before that judge that day. And it's an incredible story that everybody needs to understand, because Carl's also talking about, everyone understands, children being taken from their parents. You never refer to them as children in the legal world. They're your what? Property. See how that ties back into the 2 questions? Who claim my property? Who can administrate property without right? They better have an obligation, a contract, where I've relinquished my right to protect that which I've created, my children, until they're of an age of consciousness that they know how to protect themselves lawfully, not legally. And that one word, those 2 sentences, Carl came up to Moncton and he put into the court, and he destroyed a court up there as well. Parents that had their 4 children taken away from, and this is what you're going to hear in the Brian Garish show. And with those 2 sentences into the court, they got their children back and everything else that was taken from them the very next day. And that's why the power of words, Mark, is so important. That's why you need to understand, first and foremost, we've been lied to, all of us, when we've been born. The solution is very simple moving forward, because we have the truth now surrounding COVID-19. I've done many incredible interviews with Dr. Judy Mikovits, Dolores Cahill, Dr. Urso. Multiple doctors are on my website. I've got over on my COVID lie tab. And again, I was calling this a lie right from February of last year when it came out, because I knew this because of my 20 years of enormous research that I've been doing and fighting through the courts, and also understanding what is really going on in this world. So I've been preparing for this moment for a very long time. And that's why it's called A Warrior Calls. Okay, I'm here to fight for my fellow man and woman, honorably, courageously, and in our public courthouses. I'm not instigating violence, because I don't need to have any violence. I have the truth. And that truth is going to mop the floor with this massive corruption, because once this happens in one court up here in Canada, I'm working in Australia, Ireland, people in Scotland, the UK, people are still reaching out to me there as well. But in Canada here, we've really turned the light up, so to speak, on this. And there's going to be multiple cases moving all at the same time in 3 different provinces in the very near future. And I've got the police now behind me. They're starting to recognize, they all see something's wrong. But see, the police have not been given these foundational truths. So how can they possibly be the solution for us? They can't. They're actually part of the problem. And that's what you're witnessing on the television today, right? You're witnessing that everybody is basically being attacked by these people that are supposed to be protecting and serving us, because there's foundational truths that are missing from our collective consciousness. So I'll turn it back over to you, Mark. Sorry I went for a bit there, but I just wanted to get that out there succinctly and hopefully in a complete package. And the more that you learn and discuss these simplicities of this conversation, your listeners should really, really start to wrap their heads around of what's been done to them. More importantly, the solution moving forward. And believe me, it's going to be exciting in the next few months here, because this is going to happen in the UK as well. People are going to surround these courthouses. They're going to move a simple claim into the courthouse, and they're going to first route out that the rules of civil procedure do not apply to we the people. So everything is words. Remember, I say you got to pay attention to every single word that is used. What does the word civil mean? I know I said, and I'm just going to end it on this for you, and I'll bring you back in. The word civil means Roman. So add that, change that word correctly, the rules of Roman law. Now, if we the people walked into a courthouse, and you had a lawyer that says, I'm going to represent you, and we're going to move under the rules of Roman law, everybody with half a brain, or even not a brain, would recognize, no way, I'm not going under Roman law. What the hell has that got to do with me? Then you would start to see that there's something very nefarious, something very deceitful that's going on before you in this public courthouse. All these people that are supposed to be acting in these honorable roles are not. They're all acting in a particular theater. The judge is part of the bar. The lawyers are part of the bar. The court staff usually isn't, but everybody else that's in that room, except from the police, they're all part of the bar. And their entire goal is to take as much money from you as possible, strip you of any type of justice that you're owed, and kick you out the door. And God forbid you should break any one of their codes, rules, or bylaw procedures, because then they're going to have their way with you in court. Remember, that's how they do it, through the intimidation, because they're claiming that you are this person that is bound by all these codes, rules, and statutes. And once you basically establish very powerfully that you are the man or the woman that's standing before them, and not this creation that is bound, because that's what they say, for benefits and privileges. It's like McDonald's offering to you, hey, take this driver's license out or use our identification because there's all these benefits and privileges that come with it. Well, how do you like these benefits and privileges that you're getting? All right? You're being ordered to stay home. Again, these orders, they're worthless on the paper. And this is the part that's most disturbing for me, is that how quickly my fellow man and woman acquiesced, and they just became silent. But the rubber's starting to hit the road now, Mark. People are starting to get angry, obviously, because businesses are being destroyed. I've got a call tomorrow night with over 40, actually 60 chiropractors, right? And that's who's starting to reach out to me now. They were going to put $1 million together for a fund, and they were going to go after, the corporate entities that are causing all this wrong and harm, destroying their businesses. And they asked me what type of retainer you would want. And as I say to everybody, I don't want any retainer. And I just want everyone to know, too, I'm not out here soliciting any work because my dance card is beyond full, but I'm having this Zoom meeting with them to provide them the correct information moving forward, because it's that simple. The 4 questions that we've talked about here, or the 3 questions, this is what the man Justin Trudeau or the man acting as Premier for Ontario have to answer. When I say the word I, that refers to every man and woman in this world. I don't speak for every man and woman in this world, but the truth does. So when you say, who claim I property to them, they have to answer that. Is Justin Trudeau or Doug Ford or Boris Johnson going to stand in open court under oath and affirmation and point to me or any man or woman in England and say, yes, the people are my property? Of course he's not. He'd get strung right up by the neck before he could whistle Dixie. So then the next question you hit Boris with, well, can Boris or any agent or officer under your control, remember he's operating a service corporation like McDonald's, can any agent or officer acting under your control, or Boris Johnson, the man before me, administrate property without right? And he's going to say no. He's not going to say yes in front of a jury of his peers sitting there that's seated of the people, which should be a grand jury, 25 people. So then you hit him with the last question. Remember, Boris is acting. He's working for a service corporation. That's great, Boris. You want to produce the obligation which you have to secure jurisdiction over I. Produce it. They don't have a contract. That's what that verified obligation means. So if he doesn't have a contract with you or any member of his service corporation, called England, then where does anything that they say where they put pen to paper apply to we the people? It doesn't. And it's over that quickly. Our courts are set up, our public courthouses are there for when a trespass occurs, when wrong or harm is occurring against our fellow man. That's what we go there to seek justice for. And now everybody understands, when their jaw is probably on the ground, what's actually going on with these bar members. And I will go on any show, I will go anywhere in this world, I'll step into any court, and I will take these lawyers down, providing that there is a live stream being fed and everybody can see the theater that's going on. Because that man or woman that wears the black robe, Mark, they're my public servant. Remember the hierarchy? We came into this world as a man or woman. We created government, and government then went and created judges, justices, magistrates, all these different definitions. They serve us, we the people. because we're the creators, but they're not serving us when we go in there. They're serving themselves with their own society through this rigged corruption. And that's when this comes to the forefront, which is happening now. That is how quickly it will be able to take down all these people that have been lying to us, that have been locking down our business, putting out these orders for us to stay at home. You don't have to follow these orders. And if you wish to follow an order, here's the synopsis. What happens when you go to McDonald's and you place an order, Mark, at the counter there? And the staff there, they goes back, or that man or woman, they go and they carry out that order that you have given them. What does Mark get before he walks away from that counter, aside from what they've carried out? A bill. Is everyone starting to click in here? Everybody should be sending bills to Boris Johnson, charging him $1,000 a day or whatever the hell you want for locking you down. If you're going to fulfill his order, say, I'm more than happy to fulfill your order, but this is my fee. This is my charge to do this, Boris, because I'm not your property. I don't have a contract with you, and you can't administrate property without right. So you want to place an order with me? No problem. Here's my fee schedule, and I'm going to charge you $1 a second. I like that one a lot. That's $86,400 a day. Okay? Think about that. And all of that is legitimate. No one has the right to order a man or woman to compel them to perform without paying them for their services. That's the law. Unless you're what? A slave, a serf, unless you're another man or woman's property. And that's why you're all referred to it every time you hear that word persons, right? This is what they're doing to you. So I'll turn it back over to you there, Mark. I went off a bit there, but hopefully I've nailed everything pretty good for everyone to get at least their feet wet who are hearing this for the first time and understanding this moment that's before us, because we have a World War III that's occurring against mankind right now. They are looking to take mankind out. Just look up the Georgia Guidestones, okay, on YouTube and understand what they are. They're actually fulfilling this right now. They are basically depopulating the world, and they're using these vaccinations, which no one should ever get. No one should get any of these because they're changing your DNA within your body to corrupt it, to basically take you out, so that when the second round of vaccines come out, they're going to take down, as Judy Mikovits, Dolores Cahill, they're going to cause millions of death. And then they're going to blame it on this COVID-19 as if this is the culprit. When all the doctors in the world right now, many of them, thousands of them, that you're not hearing their voices, you'll hear them on my website, they're coming forward now and they're saying, we've all been lied to here. This is ridiculous. We have to stop. You have to remember the elderly people, these people that built up these incredible infrastructures in our countries, that are our mothers, our fathers, brothers and sisters to other people. They are being terrorized in these old age long-term care homes right now. They're not being allowed to see their friends or family. They've got this idiot box that's probably been put on in front of them where they're being continually terrorized. Oh, there's another 3,000, there's a 20,000, a million cases. Who cares if there's cases of this COVID, which has now been proven it's only influenza A or B? It's the common cold. That's what it is here. This is the lie that's been going on. And they needed to do this. Why? Because the central bankers and the Pope and the monarch, to finally usher in this elite, these cabal of these evil people that have been working at this a very long time, in order to get control of the world, they have to destroy every single nation financially. So they use this lie with the COVID-19 to shut down all the businesses, enforce all these draconian rules, and we're going to back it up with force, that if you're going to step out of your home or you're going to go here and do this or open your business, you're going to be fined thousands of pounds or whatever. It's all intimidation. But when you look at the evidence, you see that the numbers, you don't care if there's cases. Our immune system is the most powerful thing in this world. Our creator, it came from our creator. He knows our bodies perfectly. You do not put a mask over the very opening that is supposed to be bringing in and releasing fresh air and good air in within your system. It's right in front of our faces what's going on here. And Judy and Dolores are incredible women. When you just watch their videos alone, they're outing and routing all of this out with the current data. Okay, in Ontario here, we have over 17 million people. They say that's on the record that there's 4,000 people that have died, supposedly from COVID. Well, we all know the majority of these people now, that's been proven in Italy, that 96% of them had prior or underlying conditions, be it heart disease, diabetes, or they were over the age of 82, I think was the age. Okay, and again, they got killed in these hospitals. This is what's going on. When they're putting people on these respirators, they're compromising their immune system. And all these doctors are telling them there's a very simple fix for it. It's right in everybody's face. Chloroxychloroquine, which has been brought out by President Trump that he talked about initially. This is what the doctors have been using for over 65 years, and it has worked like a champ to take out any forms of influenza. What has the FDA done in the United States? They've now banned the sale of hydroxychloroquine. Why would they do that? Then they put out a report saying that they found that it is all dangerous in that. And this is where the doctors started screaming bloody murder, because this report got put out through one of these prestigious journals. And what happened was that they were saying in this report that is put out there for peer review that there was 90,000 people that this test was held under. And all the doctors are screaming, they're saying, there's no test of 90,000 people that they did with this hydroxychloroquine just recently, because if there had been, they should have said the world physicians would have known about it. If this was going on, that they were doing some sort of a test. So as soon as this got called out, and I wasn't sure if I think it got taken to court very quickly, this medical magazine journal that everyone holds up as the Bible recanted, and they pulled it back. However, what happened in the meantime before it got recanted and pulled back? Well, all the mainstream media. This is what you have to understand. They control the media, they control the monetary system, and they control the court systems. They've got us all locked up, right? Only because we don't know who we are. So anyways, Mark, I'm sorry. I've talked a lot there. I should let you back in here.
All right. You answered a lot of questions there, brother. And talking as you were about words and the meaning of words, I found out just recently the etymology of the word person when you trace it back to the ancient Greek. It actually means mask wearer, which ties into the idea of a legal fiction. And isn't that apt to the way most people are living today, walking around with masks on their faces? There's some ironic relevance there. But those that put together the Admiralty Maritime Law system obviously rely on trickery. It's wordplay, it's legalese. A lot of these words, as you say, relate to shipping. So you have the dock in the court, you have citizenship, you have the birth certificate, like a ship goes into berth in the dock. You have banks, as in the bank of a river. And in the absence of a contract, as far as these psychopaths see it, when your parents sign that birth certificate or create that birth certificate for you, they are signing you over as property, and you become that legal fiction. You become a corporate entity as opposed to the living, breathing being. But they have to resort to that trickery in order to get you into their system, because they know if they ever came clean about it and actually revealed in plain, easily understandable language what they're doing, no one in their right mind would agree to it. So I hear a lot of people say you're owned by the system, you're their property, you're a corporate entity. But the truth of the matter is that in your core natural state, you are still sovereign, you are still free. Because if you've been incorporated into a system by trickery, it doesn't count for anything because you've not knowingly agreed to it. So you're still free in the core of your being, but you've just been duped, or your parents were duped, into participating in this demonic system. That's just my thoughts on it.
Yeah. Well, let me talk about that, because you said some really great words there. And again, you always got to drill down on the words that you're using. This notion that because this documentation was created, you have to understand something in law. Anytime fraud touches anything, that means if something was done unbeknownst to two people that are entering into agreement and one side was not fully disclosed, like there was a meeting of the minds. Again, you cannot have a meeting of the minds. Your parents didn't have a meeting of minds with the court, with the hospital staff there, because the hospital staff believes that they're just simply creating a record of their wonderful child you brought in. They are ignorant of this as well. So what you have to understand is that when fraud is present, it eviscerates all. So this notion that we are property of these service corporations is ridiculous. Go back to my three questions. Who claim my property in open court? No one's going to say that works for these service corporations. Who can administrate property without right? Nobody. Then the third big one, contract makes the law between a man or woman. The wonderful analogies that we're doing that are correct when you were showing why they use these various different terms of trickery, okay, that's a rabbit hole that people can go down. This is how this whole system got set up in the Freemason world, but this is why I streamline things very, very simple, Mark, okay? You don't need to understand the stuff about the shipping and the banks and the birthing and all that stuff. I've learned and understood all that stuff, how their world works. You need to understand in the here and now that you're not property and that contract makes the law between you and any man or woman. Full stop. Okay, it's that simple. And you do not allow these people wearing the black robes. That's why you always challenge jurisdiction. What is jurisdiction? Well, we talked about that at the top. Well, I did. That's the word law, land, air, and water. So all this time when you walk into these public courthouses, you're being dragged into the jurisdiction of the sea, Admiralty Maritime Law. That is how, remember what I said, fraud eviscerates all. This is why this is so big. This is why the bar is terrified. This is why they're going to be routed out worldwide, and they're going to be liquidated into oblivion, so that the only damn thing that they ever do again, which they're supposed to be doing, is operating in the legal world, contract law between corporations. Okay? This is how powerful this truth that's coming forward. And it is coming. It's coming very, very fast now because fraud eviscerates all, and they're realizing, oh my God, that what's happening to every man and woman in these hospitals, which is still occurring today, is a horrific trespass. And that is called constructive fraud. So because of that constructive fraud, you just simply can go back and see, in the legal world, they have a thing known as statutes of limitations. This is what the bar set up, these members. Remember, they write their own rules, laws, codes. They can call it whatever the hell they want. So they put a 7-year statute in there that if you don't come back after 7 years, you're shit out of luck. Right? It's a ring game fence that these bar members have got going on in their court systems, right? It's a complete casino. Like I say, to get you in as quickly as possible, but then keep you there as long as possible, and then spit you out once the lawyers, the judges, everybody's all milked you for whatever they possibly can. That's what their system is based on. It's got nothing to do with justice. Okay? And that's why we're going to get away from these people wearing the black robe. See, in a common law court, when you're actually in that courtroom, the man or woman wearing that black robe that's supposed to be acting in a dual role, he's supposed to recognize when it's a legal proceeding in front of him or a lawful. But they don't want to recognize the lawful, and that's where they get you, because as soon as you use their legal forms, well, you've already agreed to operate under the rules of civil procedure. And again, I got to go back to that. This has been drawn out in Canada now. I've proven it through the highest levels of the judiciary here in Canada that the rules of civil procedure do not apply to we the people. And they're very scared. This has just got proven in the last couple of weeks now, after 8 months. And like I said, we filed on them in December 24th of this past year, the top chief justices, to bring this out into the open, into the light. Okay, because this is where we have these communications, these truths. You're not going to get the truth in the mainstream media. You're not going to get the truth trying to do it through a political realm, because now you realize it's all theater, and you don't actually have a de jure, a lawful government. You've got people acting, masquerading for these service corporations that are appearing as your government, and they're not. Okay, and this is where the rubber's really going to hit the road, because every single penny that's been taken from the people in England and around the world through taxation is going to come back to all your countries. We're talking about trillions of dollars. Right? And this is what the Pope, the Vatican, the central bankers, and the monarch, this is what they've been taking and stealing and hoarding for a very long time. And this is going to get brought onto a courthouse. That's where the rubber hits the road. When people are put under oath or affirmation, those 3 questions that I've talked about here repeatedly, they will destroy Boris Johnson or any other man or woman that's acting as a police chief, anybody, for any of their agents and their officers, for what they've been doing to us and continue to do with us. Remember, the peace officers are there to protect and keep the peace. They're only supposed to engage with you unless they've got a claim that you've caused wrong or harm, or that they're bearing witness that you're breaching the peace, drunkenly, disorderly, or breaking windows or whatever. That's it. Other than that, Bob or Susie have no business talking to you. But unfortunately, through this ignorance that has been placed over us because of this unlawful trespass that's happened, we are not familiar of what is actually going on within this world. And that's why this COVID-19, for all the horrible things that have been going on in our world, Mark, I'll just say this. It's actually been one of the greatest gifts to this world, because these people have overplayed their hand that have been committing all this evil for so long. Remember, they're responsible for all the wars that are going on in this world too. They control all the alphabet agencies, right? All these secret service agencies. They control everything. And all of that is going to come crumbling down the minute that we start to move our claims in courts into the public courthouses. I see these massive gatherings that go on in the UK, and they're wonderful to see. But guess what? It's a waste of time. You're all out there in the street protesting. Protesting what? Your public servants? Remember, they're your employees. You're the employer. You should not be protesting anybody. You know that what these people are doing is not right. It's not lawful. Remember, codes, rules, or statutes are written by people called legislatures. Are they not agents and officers of these service corporations? Yep. Are any one of them going to come forward and claim that your property in open court? Nope. They can't administrate property, and you don't have an obligation with them contract. See how quickly that is? All of a sudden, their pieces of paper, what they're claiming apply to you, don't. And their entire system will fall apart. Doesn't mean we're going to have chaos. We already have chaos right around this world right now because of this lie. This light is going to restore this truth in the hearts and the minds and soul of my fellow man, and then we are going to rock this world. We're going to take back control of our banking. We're going to take control back of our public courthouses. The rule of law is going to be finally established in this country, in this world, that has not happened for a very long time. And that's why I'm so grateful there's people like you out there, Mark, that are bringing these truths forward. We must share this truth as quickly and as fast as possibly with our fellow man and woman right now, and we must come together and start moving the actions forward at these public courthouses. Because once that happens, this system is going to fold like a deck of cards very quickly. And I believe that all that's going on in the United States, we're going to see something absolutely incredible. For those of you that aren't aware, that's going to happen hopefully in the next month. And when this goes down, this is what we're talking about, that the military, people within that, they've all got the information, not just about the elections that have been completely stolen from Donald Trump, but they also intercepted supposedly communications of this cabal that set all this stuff up. Remember, they took over the United States, the same group of people, in 1913 when they got control of the Federal Reserve. Okay, they took over Canada in 1974 when our prime minister at that time for the Service Corporation Canada, Elliott Pierre Trudeau, who was the father of the corrupt little entity called parasite Justin Trudeau that's in here now, is there to finish his daddy's work to make us a completely communist state. He was the one that sold out our country and sold and gave our property, that's our patents that were owned by we the people, to the business of international settlements. And now they, through the central banking system, what has all been set up through the Rothschilds, etc., and the Monarch, they create money out of thin air. They issue it to the service corporation called Canada, and then it comes with interest now to Canada where it didn't before from our public bank that we and the people owned and they controlled. And then they apply that taxation back onto that which they control and created, which is what? The legal person, right? So that's what I'm saying. This is so simple to understand. The solution is so simple and powerful. And this truth's time has finally come, Mark.
All right. So how realistic is it that the likes of Boris Johnson, Justin Trudeau, Scott Morrison, all of them, as individual men or women, can be held to account for fraud, treason, genocide, and crimes against humanity? Not government entities, but these individual men and women for the crimes that they've committed against their people. So is it realistic that we could expect them to answer personally for the harm and damage and loss that they've caused?
Oh, you better believe whether they answer. When you say the word answer as them replying for it, I really don't care what they have to say. We have the evidence worldwide. All right, everybody's got it right now, knowing what's been going on. These people are going to be held accountable, Mark. Trust me, this is coming down. That's what I say. You have to remember, people, patience is a virtue. When you know who you are in your heart, your mind, and your soul, you stand there powerfully in truth and know that your fellow man, that this truth is coming and that we are going to get this done. Remember, Rome wasn't built in a day. Okay, but because of this COVID thing that's been foisted on all of humanity, they've overplayed their hands now because you're seeing people pushing back in all these countries. And what do you think's going to happen, Mark, when everybody understands these truths that we've talked about here today, which is happening? That's when the rubber hits the road, because the police are looking for a solution. Do you not think that people that are in police know that this corruption's going on? They're the people that are on the front lines in Canada here that are going to be forced to take these vaccines. They don't want these forced on them. And that's why they're turning and they're realizing something very, very wrong is occurring here. I didn't finish earlier when I was talking in Ontario. Over 17 million people, 4,000 people they claim are somewhere around that have died supposedly of COVID. Well, you do the numbers. That works out to 0.02% of the population. That is not a pandemic. A pandemic is when you have hundreds of thousands of people dropping dead every single day in a country that's got 35 million people. That's a pandemic. Not one or two people in a hospital that are diagnosed incorrectly, because these PCR tests, again, people are listening, do not allow them to give you that PCR test, because they are going to be infecting you with the very things that they're putting in the vaccines. You need to understand this. This is the game. It's the culling of all of humanity, because the gig is up for these people that set up these monetary and financial systems and have been controlling all these wars and messages to our world for so long. They realized that when the internet came online in 1995, that it was a double-edged sword. First, on the one side, it was going to allow them a connectivity. The Nazis was a wet dream for the SS, that they could know exactly what everyone's doing, where they're going, what they're purchasing, who they're talking to. All through our cell phones, all what we do online. It's all monitored. They can find out anything and everything about us. Okay? But at the same time, what happened for mankind? We got to connect. Look at you and I, Mark. We've never met each other. We're on the complete opposite sides of this planet. And here we are talking about incredible truth. And there's going to be thousands, hopefully hundreds of thousands of people that are going to hear this communication, and they're going to spread it far and wide. This is why it's been a death throw to them, because as the internet came online and became more bigger and powerful, the connectivity, the conversation started happening with professionals around the world, realizing, we've all been lied to right across the board, from science to health to courts to financial. It's the whole full enchilada. And now we've got all that information now. And that's why the internet is now being shut down, because they had a certain amount of time they realized they could use to build all this up, to get all the information, to track everybody, to get this system in place, and then start to use it as another force, right, to conditioning the consciousness of the mind of man and keeping this fear out there more than ever. But they're failing at it, obviously, because people like you and millions around the world are turning to the internet, and they are finding the truth from professionals. And I want to say this first and foremost. Everything that I've said to you here this evening or this morning, wherever you are in this world, is truth. None of this is my opinion. These are the hard and core facts that you've never been given, because these people that are evil that set this up, they don't want you to know who you are. They don't want you to live a life of freedom with your fellow man and woman. They are evil. They are absolutely repugnant in what they've been doing. The genocide you referred to, you're absolutely right, Mark. And that's why this truth time has finally come. That's why we, the people, we are going to start moving our common law courts, which is already happening here in Canada. And they're not going to be able to defend them once this truth gets brought out into the light. And that's going to be an incredible moment, Mark. And I look forward to the people in the UK and around the world also executing their God-given rights and coming together and moving these truths forward. And it's all on my website. Like everything is there for free. I don't charge for anything because this is not about money. This is about saving humanity right now, mankind. And because that's what's up against us right now. We are all under attack. Our children are being terrorized. The elderly are being terrorized and murdered in their final days of their lives in our hospitals, not being allowed to see people. Imagine if your father or mother passed away and there's a funeral and they're doing it up here. They don't allow people to come into the funeral home. The terrorism, the abuse that's going on, the suicides are going off the charts around the world. You're not hearing that. Domestic abuse is going off the charts. Depression, okay, is going through the roof because they're compromising everyone's consciousness by forcing people to stay home. And people are being forced to stay home, Mark, lastly, is because they don't simply have these truths, this foundational knowledge of this lie that's occurred to us when we were born.
Now, does the common law system just apply in Commonwealth countries, or can it be applied elsewhere in the world?
Well, it should be applied everywhere in the world because, remember, the common laws we talked about earlier is that if a man or woman does any trespasses against you, and you understand what that word trespass means, it covers everything. That's why I only use the word trespass. It's in the Bible as well. There's a reason for that. Oh, and that just so you know, the newer versions that they're bringing out online of the King James version of the Bible, you will not find Job 32:21. They've pulled it. Right? See, this is what you understand. The people that are evil that have been writing this history that you believe in how this world came about, that's a whole other show we could do on. But I keep my stick on the ice, as we say here in Canada, and I'm focusing solely on the trespass that's occurred against us all when we're born. These are evidence. It's not about Christopher. It's about the light, the truth that I'm bringing forward here powerfully for my fellow man to grab and to use right here and now. And those three simple questions, go back and listen to them. That's all you have to use to interact with any of these people that are trying to impose any of these rules, codes, or statutes on you or orders. And again, the fourth one, if the police are involved. So like I say, Mark, the work that you're doing is so important right now. It's so important that people wake up, turn off that TV, and start looking to one another and understanding these simple truths as I've laid out before you here today. You just need to understand the power of those words, trespass, property, and who. And once you wield them properly when you're communicating and interacting with your fellow man, no matter who they are, as I said, your neighbor across the street, your family member, or someone that's operating or these service corporations that's trying to engage with you, saying that you're bound to some sort of council tax or rules or civil procedures or whatever you can do with your property. You know, I've seen so many shows in the UK where these people have built these wonderful, beautiful, homes or additions to their estates, which are quite large. And then you have these councils coming and saying, you didn't get approval from us, and it's 8 inches long, higher or wider than what our documentation says that is allowed to you. See, then you understand, who are you people? I don't know you. Do you claim I'm your property? Nope. You got an obligation with me? A contract where I've relinquished my rights as a man to live peacefully on this earth and do what I wish with my property, create and live peacefully with my fellow man? Nope. Well, then you can't administrate property without right, can you? And they're going to say no. And then you realize these councils, all these people that are implementing all these type of draconian means, being a television tax or anything else, they're of no force or effect against a man or a woman. I jump around a lot because there is so much surrounding this and it's absolutely fascinating, but I stick to what is truth. I want to just quickly jump back to the Maneri family and the farm. I had them go to the bank. I didn't finish that. I apologize. They went to the bank with their identification, which you can find on my website, which was created. The bank manager said, no problem. She knew, Brent and Kathy, I'll get it corrected now on your bank account. As soon as she started typing in upper and lower case characters in her computer, it wouldn't allow her to do that. It kept putting everything in all capital letters. She's going, oh, that's weird. See, because no one ever came in and showed her and told her what was sort of going on here. So she said, I'll tell you what. She tried it like 4 or 5 attempts. She says, this is really weird. She says, I'll tell you what I'm going to do, Brent and Kathy. I'm going to take your documentation here, your ID, your custom ID that's all notarized. I'm going to send it up to head office and get them to understand that what's going on here and that we gotta get this corrected with the system. So it gets sent up to head office. What happens about 2 weeks later, Brent and Kathy get a letter from the head of the bank, the head of their supervisor division. What are they telling them? They're basically telling them that they do not wish to have people like them doing banking or interacting with them, given what how they carry themselves in business. They were basically telling them that they were criminals or they were doing things that were corrupt, etc., and that they want nothing to do with them again, and that their bank accounts are going to be closed. This is a man and woman who have operated a farm, a family, raised 3 kids, I believe, or 2 daughters or whatever, that are just incredible. They've never caused wrong or harm to any man or woman. They've always paid their bills. They've always paid their mortgages. And when you're in farming, you have many loans that they're given, unfortunately, in the system, how it's set up, to be able to get their produce to market. And they have never had a bounce check ever in 35 years. And yet, this bank came out now threatening them and told them, you either close your account or we're going to send you your balance of your funds in a check to you in 30 days. So there it is right there. We drag the evil right out in, and this is happening to everyone. That's why the fraud that's going on at the banks. Every single bank account that's out there, it's not yours. That's constructive fraud. See what's going on here? You just try and go into a bank and correct that. So I need to correct the title on this bank because that's not who I am. And when you have your correct identification, you're proving that you're the upper lowercase, the man or woman that's appearing before them, not this legal entity that's been put on title. And that's when you go and look at who's been put on title. Go look up the registry, right? For your land or motorbike or car, you're always going to see it was an all capital name. And that's not you, and you've always believed it was you. And once we start turning this stuff around, Mark, it's just going to be an incredible moment in our world. And so I just want to say to everybody out there that from Canada, your brothers and sisters here, especially from me, I love you with all my heart. Everything that I've been doing has been from my heart because of an enormous wrong and harm that happened to me and my family being completely destroyed. Financially, for me trying to bring an incredible light to the world, a $1.5 billion initiative in the music and entertainment industry back in 2001. And when that destroyed me and my life's work, everything I put in to it destroyed my family, I'm the type of man that wanted to know why. Why did this happen? Because all of my evidence of what I was doing was going to be incredible. And today, had my entity launched called Soulcore Entertainment Group, it would mop the floor with Google and YouTube. Okay, we would have done $50 billion a month without even breaking a sweat. And all of that money would have been put back into the financial architecture I set up into every respected country that has our facilities set up to help the people there. Billions, and we were going to put a cap on the profits of Soulcore Entertainment Group. It was a new financial architecture that this world would never have seen. And I created all of this. Again, this is not an I love me thing. This is the truth. And it was so powerful. Alan Lee from Lord of the Rings, the conceptual artist, he flew over to Canada back in the day and he offered his services to me for free at that time to help create these communities, this culture consciousness, what I was bringing forward, that it was going to be represented in all the buildings. And nothing like it today in this world is there. And hopefully one day I will get back to that. But that's what led me on this journey to find out what was going wrong, how my mother and father got completely destroyed financially, the one that never should have happened, supporting me in this venture launching. And I wanted to find a way, how do you hold these people accountable? Well, you can't hold a policeman accountable. You can't hold a doctor accountable, a lawyer accountable, a judge accountable. Why? Well, because they're fictions. But you can hold, as Mark was talking to earlier, once you understand the simplicity and power now, once you know who you are, you can hold that man or woman accountable that's acting in that capacity, because they've got to answer those 3 questions, people. They've got to say yes to one of them. Contract, I'm your property, or you can administrate property without right. And when they don't do that, then they have no business trespassing into your life in any capacity, regardless whatever internal communications or documentation they've been led to believe, right? Their duties and obligations, again, trump the rights of the people once they come out into the public with it. So,
right. Do you think the architects of this COVID scam, so-called elites, and these parasitic politicians, I'm hearing some things about the Pope and the monarch having been removed, according to accounts I've heard. They're no longer around. But as far as those that remain that were behind this scamdemic, do you think they quietly fear somebody coming after them because they realise that the day enough of us come to this knowledge, then the gig is up for them? So do you think they live in quiet fear of the day when that happens and we start to come for them?
Yes, this is what this cabal, again, with my deep research, I've got over 55,000 files that I've actually kept. Majority of it is in video. I'd say about 80% of it. And these are from professionals around the world. I learned right across the full spectrum. I just didn't delve into, my background was in music and entertainment industry. So how do you go from there, Chris, to doing what you're doing now? Well, this is how I got here. You always have to understand, and I tell everyone, you look at the middle of the man or woman that's speaking to you, right? Do not take my word for it. Do your own investigative work. Look at what I'm showing everybody. I'm handing it to everyone on a silver tray now so that they're seeing the truth is so simple of this unlawful conversion that happens when they're born. It's represented in all the communications you've ever received from government. Now you're understanding the game that's actually being played against us. So you talk about the accountability. Oh, yes. This is what these elite, these people that have been controlling this world for a very long time. A great book that everyone should buy is Dr. Coleman, Committee of 300. Okay, it was put out back in the 1980s originally, I believe, but it is a phenomenal book. And this man is telling you everything then, what's going on right now as well, what the system was ultimately about, that they were going to bring in this mass culling. That's what's going on in this world. The elite are culling the population like sheep. They're killing them so that they can have this world for themselves. That's what this boils down to. That's why this fight is of such epic proportions. And to tie into answer your question fully, these people are nervous. Oh, you better believe it, because what I'm going to do here in Canada is every man and woman what's about to drop in the next month or two here, I believe it's going to finally come to the fruition. Every man and woman that's been acting as an attorney general, every man and woman that's been acting as a premier for a service corporation at provincial level, including the federal level as well, Canada, it's a service corporation. Every man and woman especially that's been acting as a health minister. These people that are putting out these dictates based on their modeling. Remember, who gives a shit, pardon my language, if there's cases? They've got 1 million cases. Who cares? How many people are dying? That's the real number. That's what the doctors are screaming about. They're saying the numbers are actually less than the common flu on average from the last 4 years. And there's no information data that they're collecting anymore on influenza A and B this year. People need to understand that they're not collecting that information, reporting it, because they're throwing everything that they possibly can that it's related to COVID. They have to keep this theater going, but it's crumbling all around them very quickly. And everything from the PCR test to the actual virus itself, for those of you that don't understand, is that just because you wear a mask, it does not prevent any type of a virus ever from getting into your body, or any type of particle that could possibly, compromise your immune system. Again, your immune system deals with viruses every single day. We have over 3 trillion, as Judy Mikovich and Dolores Cahill have taught me, 3 trillion viruses all around us all the time and in our bodies, right? Have we been wearing masks up until this point? No, we haven't. What the mask does, it's a symbolism of 2 things, as Mark alluded to. It's a way of masking, basically shutting up mankind, basically muting him from speaking, but it's also compromising your immune system. And like I said, when people understand the simplicity of this, and you do not get these vaccines, which they've created, again, these vaccines that they're purporting that they've created, in order to create a vaccine that, if it is going to be effective, and I don't believe in any vaccines, but if you're going to go that route, they have to have and found the foundational marker. Okay, the marker of that virus, whatever it is that's causing all this problem, they have to found the foundational marker in order for them to create a vaccine. The foundational marker now has been exposed worldwide that no single laboratory has ever isolated the COVID-19 marker. This is why they bypass. See, when they do the vaccines in their criminal world, in the world how it has been set up until recently, is that when a vaccine's being developed, once they get, I guess, the solution has been created, they then have to test it on animals for 10 years. Okay? They bypassed the tests this time. They're going straight. That's why it should not be called vaccines. These are experimental, gene altering. They're altering our DNA, okay? Vaccines. People need to understand this is the most nefarious, evil thing that could ever be done to us. They are actually changing our Creator's creation. They're going to compromise us and kill us. And that's what's going on. And that's what you're starting to see. There's a website you can check out. I'm sorry I don't have the name of it, but they're now reporting from around the world of all these deaths that are happening with people. You're seeing old age care homes. They're administering them to everybody at once the same day. I got an article on my website, and on one day, 24 people all died, and then all of a sudden, 154 of them supposedly had now COVID-19. This is right after these vaccines. And you need to understand something that they're not telling you. If you do get the vaccine and you're ignorant enough to do that, does that vaccine prevent you from getting COVID-19? No. See? So why in God's name would anybody take these vaccines? Well, it's because they've not been given the truth. They've not been given this knowledge that I've shared with you here today. And you go look it up and research it. It's there for the world to see, and it's all over my website. So I know I go off a lot here, Mark, but like I said, we are in a very, very precarious time right now. Time is of the essence, and this truth that I've been so grateful to be able to lay before my fellow man and woman here through this podcast here today is foundational. It's groundbreaking, and it's of biblical proportions, and you're going to start to see the common law come forward, because we are going to move these claims in courts in Canada, and all these people acting as health ministers, they're all going to get dragged in as that man or woman capacity. And when they answer no to those 3 questions in court under oath or affirmation, then that exposes that everything that they've been saying never had any force or effect over us. And then we're also now able to bring in Judy Mikovich, for example. She's been to court 7 or 8 times, Mark, okay, with lawyers. Not once, I want everyone to hear this, not once has Judy Mikovich been able to put the evidence, the truth on the world, for the world, under oath or affirmation on the record. She's been blocked every time. Why? Because she's in the wrong jurisdiction. She's in the jurisdiction of the sea, Admiralty Maritime Law. And you cannot operate in those waters because there's processes they put in place that you're bound by as a vessel in their system. But once you stand outside of it, as I'm going to do with Judy Mikovits, she's going to come into that courthouse shortly after me, after I establish these claims and they move forward, and she's going to lay this evidence down on the courthouse for the world to see. And she's going right after Fauci, Bill Gates, all of them, because she has firsthand knowledge, 30 years working at Fort Detrick, understanding and knowing exactly what these people, these parasites, have been doing for the last 30 years. The blood supply has been completely compromised. People don't know that, right? And our children, the last 2 generations, are being compromised from this massive rollout of vaccination programs that began heavily 20 years ago. So anyways, Mark, like I said, it's very serious times, but there is an incredible light that is coming forward now, and we must all go to that light. And it's not a train that's coming at you through a tunnel, okay? It's actually an incredible, powerful light that they've been unable to keep under wraps now, and nothing's going to stop this truth from coming forward. And as soon as it hits it, Mark, in the very near future here, which is happening, because my train left over 18 months ago, and all my court cases now right across I've got it in 3 territories against the top people operating these service corporations at the provincial level, the attorney generals, the health ministers, the man acting as prime minister, the chiefs of the police. They're all in on these claims. They've all been filed against. And they're done. Once I get them into court, they're going to be exposed for what they've been doing and all their predecessors before them for all these years. So it's an exciting time, Mark, and I look forward to coming back and sharing this truth with everybody once you all see it happen.
Oh, for sure. I look forward to that as well. And what a travesty that Fauci and Gates are walking around free men. That should not be allowed to happen. Hopefully it won't last forever. Just before I cut you loose, are you familiar with the cases being brought by Michael O'Byrne in the UK and Rainer Fulmich in Germany? Just wonder if you know about what those guys are doing.
Yes, I am. And first and foremost, I want to say that I don't know either of these people, these wonderful men. But what they're doing with everything they can, with all their heart, to stop this evil. And I commend them for that, okay? Because they recognize exactly what's going on, as I've said. However, there is no remedy for we the people in the legal world. You have to understand that. Okay, they were trying to do this up in Canada. They were trying to last these class action lawsuits. That's why I say, where are all these lawyers not stepping up for all the people, where all these draconian measures with these tickets and stuff that are going on? The lawyers don't want to touch it up here in Canada because it's going to go against the bar, right? They've been told, leave this alone. You cannot interfere because these masks and these mandates and all this crap is all required for what's going on right now. So I'm sorry, I lost track there. What were we talking about there, Mark?
We're just
sorry?
Talking about those cases in the UK and Germany and whether there's any mileage in those.
Yeah. So, well, the good part of it is that it's bringing attention to the corruption that's going on. However, when you look at the filings, they're not common law filings. They're still relating to case law, or they're relating to codes or statutes, or they're relying on acts or constitutions they're speaking about. Remember, when Mark and I came into this world, and every other man and woman, we come into this world without any paper attached to us. Everybody can understand that. There's no contract that we're bound by. We're born free. We didn't talk about this, sovereign, which Mark talked to there. What is sovereign? Sovereign was given to us from our Creator. It means that a man or woman has dominion over something. And we were all given, when we were born into this world, our ultimate and unalienable rights with dominion over the land, the earth, and the sea. Okay? We as man, we are the people that are supposed to ensure, and we keep we're like the protectors of this earth moving forward, that in every generation we're supposed to leave it in a better capacity than it was before. But as we know, that has not been occurring in our world for a very long time. And we're at this point right now that these things, the rubber's finally hitting the road. And this is why, like I said, the truth that's going to come out with the election alone, for those of you who don't know, that's been confirmed that the Vatican's been involved in all of this. They were changing all these Dominion machines via satellite. They have the documentation. They have the affidavit. They have a judge. There was over 350 arrests that went down in Italy last week that many people don't know about. So you talked about the Queen and them, were they being arrested? Well, they are eventually going to be arrested and held accountable for what they're doing, because, as you said, this is genocide on a colossal level. Okay, when people understand the theft and destruction, what these people have been doing in these fun houses that they've been running, called our public courthouses, with all their minions called the bar members, that have been basically carrying out these horrific actions against us. And it's only happened, Mark, because of our ignorance. And that's why I'm concerned. That I wish all the best with these two gentlemen you spoke to, what they're doing, but I don't believe it's going to go anywhere, because there's no, in the legal world, it's the world of the dead. Remember, it's that which is created. It's about corporations, legal persons. That's what a legal person is. It's a fiction. It's an entity that is bound to a certain society's rules, codes, or ethics, right? Man is not. We're born free, or a woman. So the gentleman that's trying to do it using the Magna Carta, I respectfully say to everybody listening to this, unless your name is on the Magna Carta, this is the problem. Remember, I tell people, everyone's looking to a piece of paper to protect them. Everyone's looking to a piece of paper to somehow give you your rights. Words on a piece of paper do not give a man or woman their rights. We know them. We live them. You breathe it. You have to act like a man or a woman, always. And that's the problem. We're not acting as a man or a woman. And I've seen some of the filings that have gone in. I know the legal side, what that gentleman's trying to do, but there's no accountability there. You don't see them going after a Boris Johnson or a Fauci or whatever. And if they are, they're going after them in a legal capacity. And that's why you have to understand in the legal world, this is why in the legal world, that which they've created, a person, they can do whatever they want to it. They can incarcerate it. They can kill it. They can terrorize it. They can beat it up on the side of the road. And then they can justify it that their agents or officers were doing what they were lawfully in their legally in their world in which they were operating and under their duties and obligations was all legitimized. But you can't do that to a man or a woman. See, when I walk into a court, first thing I say once they call it the name, I don't care about the name so much. My paperwork's ahead of time so they know who's appearing. They always shut the doors in the past before I come in and kick everybody out because they didn't want people hearing what I was doing. Once I get the name of that man, I say, I require your name. Requires a nice way of saying demand. I require your name for the record to the man or woman wearing the robe. And they give you your name. My name's John Smith, say, for example. From that point on, I call that man John. I don't call him Your Honor. He's not my judge. Is he going to claim I'm property? Nope. Is he going to claim that he can administrate property without right? Nope. If I got a contract with this guy named Bob I just met, who's what? Working for a service corporation that's supposed to be providing good faith services to we the people. He's taken an oath to ensure that he does no wrong or harm to the people. And yet that's exactly what he's doing under the color of law through this whole legal system. So it's very powerful, Mark, and I wish with all my heart that something good comes from these suits that they're doing, but you have to understand with this man, what I read when he was going after all these parliamentary people and locking them up, you've never seen any of that being enforced, have you? You know, and he said he had to send more information to the police because they were requesting more information, and he thought that was a very positive thing. Well, yes, it's kind of positive, but when he understands that he is the man, he is one of the creators in this world, he simply needs to move his claim in court into that public courthouse and then under warrant, subpoena, and get all these people that he's put this name to. Again, he just has to bring Boris Johnson in and hit him with those 3 questions. And as soon as Boris Johnson can't say yes to one of them, that applies to every man and woman that's under his control. The same people that this man has launched this massive lawsuit in the legal realm to try and hold him accountable using Article 61, I think he says, of Magna Carta. You don't have to bring that up. I mean, no disrespect to him. You don't need to go down that road. It's a rabbit hole. You need to appear in a court before your fellow man and woman, a grand jury of 25 people, and be the man and lay that evidence down in front of them and point to that man across that room there because your name's irrelevant in common law. You're always going to say, that man or woman there trespassed against me. Here's my verified claim, not a complaint. Here's the evidence that I'm laying forward. You present it to the jury of your peers as you see fit because it's your claim, it's your court. And then the man that you're moving this claim against, he has a right to present every evidence, be it Boris Johnson, but he has to present the evidence that he answered yes to one of those questions. He doesn't have it. It's over in under a minute. That's how powerful this is, and that's when the light will go on. I always refer to it, I go back to the Lord of the Rings to end it here. You know, the Eye of Sauron that you see at the end there, it's like the Eye of Sauron when at the very end of the trilogy, the third movie, and all this chaos, you know, the king realizes, he says, we've got to create some theater to keep the eye, the focus of this evil on it. And that's what's going on out there in the world here today. This evil's got its eye of all this theater, this main fight that it's creating between all the people or whatever. It's loving, it's relving in it. Meanwhile, it's not been paying attention to what's actually been going on with this light of this truth of the common law coming up. And the second that these court claims drop in that public courthouse in Canada here, and we have these juries or our peers set of 25 grand jury people, that's when the rubber's going to hit the road. And in the movie, when the eye finally felt that ring drop that Frodo dropped into the fire, that's exactly what's going to happen to this evil. Its eye is going to go, what? It's going to snap like crazy, and then the gig is up. And it is all going to come down very quickly, and we are going to restore all these institutions that we believed were our lawful governments. They are now going to be lawful there and by for the people, and they will now understand the separation between people, a man or a woman, and persons. And they can now go and create and correct all of their documentation or legislation which they've created so that it properly represents the law of this land. And it is there solely and always to protect the property of man.
All right, Chris. Well, thank you for your time today. I really hope we can do another show a little bit further down the line when we've got some good news, hopefully, to impart to people and things have really progressed on. So do you just want to recap on where people can find your work online once again? And maybe you just want to recap on what you're doing with Jesse Casanova over at Earth United, and then we'll just leave it there.
That'd be terrific. Thank you, Mark. You can find me at multiple places. The first place is a warrior, not a lawyer, a warriorcalls.com. There, you will, once you sign up and subscribe to the site, and once you go inside, you don't have to subscribe to get in, but please do so that we can keep this connectivity with you. I've got the email server in the background, obviously, when YouTube took me down, and if they try and take other sites or whatever down that we use this communication, like BitChute has a subscription, but you don't always get the notifications from BitChute. Once you subscribe at my website, I'm able to directly email to you, and that also is the same for Earth United. Go and register at earthunited.global, and by doing that, and again, if you have an Android phone, you definitely want to download the app right now that Jesse's created, which is incredible. This in of itself is groundbreaking. It's going to allow people to connect, so you're going to know who are the people that are standing in this very truth that we're talking about, that are around you within your communities. You don't have their addresses, but if there's a problem, they're going to be able to come to you with help, but also, more importantly, we're going to be able to use this new application on the cellular network to broadcast to people around the world. Basically, you're going to be able to use it like the internet as well. It's phenomenal. You should definitely have Jesse on your show, and I'll actually reach out to them and bring them on. You can also reach me on BitChute. You can reach me on Brighteon, and again on my website or on my live streams that I do every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday and Thursday, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Again, you can watch it the next day on BitChutes, but if you are able to stay up and watch it, these are powerful right now. These are real time. The fights that are going on in the courts, like tonight I've got a show that I'm showing, actually recorded the court I was in on a Zoom call that was occurring out in British Columbia. That's on the other side of the country for me in Ontario. And that went down on Monday this week, and everyone's going to see the evil, the corruption that's going on. We've got it all recorded now. And that's what this fight is about, bringing this truth, dragging it, screaming out into the light, whether they like it or not. So you can find me at those websites. And again, if you click on a link, type this in, event.webinarjam.com/channel/a warrior calls. That's the simple link that you can get to, and when you go to that link, there'll be a button in the bottom right-hand corner. I'll send this link to Mark. Maybe you can post it on the YouTube channel wherever this goes, if it goes up.
Sure.
And people can click onto that, and you register for Monday, Wednesday, and Thursday night streams. And after that point, once you do it once, you will get notifications every week when we're live streaming a couple hours before. And of course, it will always be uploaded to BitChute and the other platforms the next day or within 48 hours. And this is what the world needs to see, Mark. So I thank you so much for everything, because the world needs to get this truth right now, and we need to move together and bring this truth into our public courthouses and rout this evil out. And that's how quickly it is. We hit everyone with those 3 questions first and foremost, and that destroys all their agents and officers underneath them that they ever had any jurisdiction, control over us in the first place.
Awesome. Well, much respect for all the great work you're doing out there, brother, and thanks for coming on the show today.
God bless. Thank you so much, Mark.
This is just for fun.
I'm picking up vibrations. I'm picking up good vibrations. I'm picking up